You might have seen our video on responding to employee conflict linked below and wondered, well, how do I mediate a conversation between two employees who are in conflict with each other? You're about to see a role play of how to do that, and there are a few things to keep in mind before you bring two conflicting people together. One is you first need to meet one-on-one with each person to get a good understanding of what's going on. So those one-on-one meetings are where you're going to decide whether bringing them together makes sense or whether something else is going on, like maybe there's a performance issue. And if it is performance, instead you're going to want to coach them. And we have a couple videos on how to give feedback and how to coach employees linked below. Finally, if you do decide that it would be good to bring them together and mediate, you might need to first teach each person how to give respectful feedback to each other before you bring them together. So, in this scenario, Thelma and Louise are both trainers who report to my colleague Brett. He's going to be playing the manager. And Thelma and Louise have been fighting in the halls, which of course that needs to stop. And notice that when Louise arrives first, Brett stays standing, so Thelma doesn't come in and see them sitting together and think they're talking about her. And he's going to make sure they're talking about something neutral, like the weather. Then when Thelma arrives, he'll sit down, and then the meeting will begin, and he'll share some ground rules. Then the employees start talking to each other, and the manager's more like a referee. He's only going to jump in when he needs to, which means he's not going to talk much. One of the biggest mistakes we see managers do is they end up talking a bunch instead of letting the employees work it out. Finally, this one's a little weird. Instead of looking at the talker like we typically do, the manager is going to spend big chunks of time watching the listener. And this lets him see how the listener is taking what the other person's saying, and it also stops the talker from looking at and talking to him instead of their conflict partner. So if you give them the back of your head, it's harder for them to try to get you on their side. All right, here we go. Let's see this in action.
Louise, thank you for coming in today.
Sure.
Have you been outside recently?
Not since this morning. Why?
It's gotten hot.
Also humid?
Also humid. So hot and humid, the best combination.
Oh, my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Hey, Thelma.
Hey,
thank you for coming in today. If you want to go ahead and have a seat. So, Thelma and Louise, I appreciate you coming in. I've met with each of you individually so that you could discuss concerns that you have for each other. And as I mentioned in those individual meetings, I'm concerned with the impact your disagreements are having on our customers, on the rest of our team, as they hear you yelling at each other. And also, I'm concerned the impact on the program in general when the two people who run the program can't communicate with each other or communicate differences in opinions without name calling and without yelling at each other. This behavior has to stop. And so today I would like for you to work through the differences together that you have, while also trying to come up with a solution of what you can do that'll work for both of you. In this process, I'm merely here as a facilitator. I'm not going to take sides. I'm not going to come up with a resolution for you. Do you understand?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And in this process, there are two rules. One, neither of you will walk away from this meeting. And two, neither of you will push or threaten the other one into a one-sided agreement that works for just you. Also, each of you will have an opportunity to share your perspective with each other. While you're not sharing, please listen and don't interrupt the other person. Listening and allowing them to speak is critical to this process. And like I said, each of you will have an opportunity to speak. And as you speak, speak to the other person. Don't speak to me. All right? So Thelma, how about we begin with you? Share with Louise from your perspective what's been happening here recently.
All right. So last week I got a call from our business manager, and they were sitting there telling me that we hadn't gotten a bill yet for a class that we had recently had taught. So I reached out to the vendor, and in talking to the vendor, they said that they were going to have a class that was going to have an emergency because the instructor couldn't teach it. So they told me, do we want to cancel the class, or do we want to find a different instructor for the class? So I simply told them, go ahead and find a different instructor to teach in the class. So that's what I went on and mentioned to them to go ahead and do.
You should have immediately contacted me, okay? That is my decision to
Louise,
make. Yeah.
let them finish.
Okay.
As I was trying to finish saying here, I mean, I knew how many people had already signed up for the class. I also knew in that situation that it was going to be nearly impossible to find another date that would work for somebody to teach in that class. So it's just not logically efficient for me to always try to track you down when I know that I can make these decisions for myself. So that's why I simply went on and made that decision with it.
Someone speak to Louise.
So do you want me to always try to track you down on these types of situations?
I mean, the thing is you're a new employee. So, I mean, this stuff is ultimately my responsibility.
I mean, do you see what I'm talking about? She's always thinking she's my boss. And you are not my boss.
I know I'm not your boss, okay? But I am the one that's responsible. That means that I'm also the one that gets in trouble if something goes wrong. And I mean, okay, so maybe I do seem a little bit like a micromanager. I mean, I've never led something like this with another person doing parts of it. So I don't know. I mean, maybe I do micromanage a little bit.
A bit, you think?
Thelma, I believe I heard Louise just apologize for being a micromanager. How do you feel about that?
I mean, if that's an apology and that's what you want to say to it, I just love it, Louise, that you love to micromanage me because, I'm sitting here thinking in this particular situation, you always are looking over me like I'm not competent to do anything. And in fact, in my old job, I know that I can do this stuff. I'm used to being a Lone Ranger and being able to handle these things and doing them on my own and handling them well.
Well, I mean, that's fine. I mean, I want you to be able to make decisions, but sometimes I've got information on some of the stuff you're making decisions about.
I mean, like what?
Well, okay, so I know that some of our instructors are way more popular than some of our other instructors.
Okay, and is that some type of state secret or something? You can't share that information with me?
I mean, yeah, I can share that information, but I mean, you always seem so busy. I just figured you were too busy at your desk with all the billing and all the other stuff.
That is what I love about my job is that, I have this opportunity to kind of seeing and learning more about the direction that we're taking the county or what's going to work for certain learners and what's not going to work.
Okay. Well, how about this? What if we kind of met, regularly on that? Because I'm happy to teach it to you. It's not that. It's just that I'm the one again that gets in trouble. But I mean, if something goes sideways, but I mean, what we could do is maybe if we met every day, like first thing in the morning for maybe 30 minutes, you could tell me what you're working on, any decisions that might be coming up.
I mean, when you're kind of hearing yourself kind of talk about all, isn't that like micromanaging again?
Looking at your face, yes. I mean, as I was talking, I could tell you didn't like that. Okay, so maybe that is micromanaging. So what would you suggest?
I mean, listen. I really do want you and I to sit down and meet and have discussions on stuff. But what I really want those discussions to be about is I want to learn about the future of our program. I want to be a part of what's our mission, what's our vision, what's our goals that we want to set forth to kind of building this program on. I want to be a part of that.
Okay. So how about this? What if we met quarterly on some of that big picture stuff? Because I don't think we need to talk about that like every day, but then on some of the more day-to-day things that are going on, what if we met weekly instead of daily? I mean, unless something's urgent, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be okay with that.
Okay. I do think we still need to talk about some of those decisions you've been making without my knowledge. I mean, if you're out there talking to a vendor, I mean, you've got my cell. You can contact me anytime. I mean, because I was really embarrassed last week. I called the vendor. I was trying to just see whether the instructor showed up. And it turns out that not only had you already called, you'd spoken with the vendor and replaced the instructor. And it made me look like I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. And I know I got busy and I just didn't follow up with an email to you.
I mean, I'm sure you are, but that stuff doesn't just make me look like I don't know what I'm doing. It makes us look disorganized.
I can see that. And I'm sorry that happened. And when I reflect back on it and look at that, to be truthful, I was probably really trying to get back at you because I felt like, I was really upset and disappointed that you were going behind me and checking up on the bills and the invoices and stuff that I had already told you that I had processed and had been paid and everything. And I just sometimes feel like you don't give me, that I feel like I'm competent to doing some of this stuff and some of the stuff that's really, really easy to do.
Yeah, I can see that. And I definitely, that was not what I meant. I didn't want that to be the message at all. And I mean, honestly, it's just before you came, I used to do all of this myself. And so I forget that now that you're here, you're not just handling stuff, but you're handling it really well.
And I appreciate hearing that, and I think, when we talk about, kind of the things we've kind of come to the conclusion to today, I mean, that's going to give, both of us something to really look forward to. I mean, I think quarterly being able to kind of look at the vision and the direction we want to take the program and for you, the day-to-day types of things to kind of see what we've got going on. So for me, I'm honestly feeling like this new arrangement, I'm going to have something to look forward to with that.
Yeah, me too. I definitely appreciate that we'll be meeting weekly. I feel like that's going to help me feel like I'm actually in the loop with what's going on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, so let me make sure I understand the solution that you guys seem to have just come up with. So it sounds like weekly you're going to meet on any vendor issues or billing, and then quarterly you'll meet to discuss the program in general. So any program planning, goals that you need to look at. And then Thelma, it sounds like you're not going to make any critical decisions without, letting Louise know regarding instructors or classes or vendors.
Yeah.
And then you, Louise, will not be looking over her shoulder at any billing issues or following up on things daily, instead waiting for that weekly meeting to discuss any needs. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, what will one of you do if the other violates the agreement?
And I haven't thought about that. What do you think, Louise?
Yeah, I haven't thought about that either. I mean, I guess you don't want us running to you every time.
I'd prefer not.
Yeah. I'll come to you directly.
And I would prefer that, just you and I being able to talk about it outside of it instead of always, running to Brett with it. So, and I do want you to know, Louise, that I'm not trying to be difficult in any way with this.
Yeah, no, I see that. And I do promise that I'll come to you and only you if I have any concerns.
Okay. Will you come calmly?
Yes, I'll come calmly, or I'll wait until I'm calm before I come and talk to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, this is good. I think the goal is not to resolve all the conflict between you, but to give you the tools that when conflict does arise and you need to communicate and decide things together, that you're able to resolve that together. And this is a great start. So how about in 1 month, we come back together to review how it's going? How does August 31st at 2 p.m. sound for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Works?
Good.
Perfect.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
got that.
Well, I'll see you then for that.
Sounds
Okay.
good. Thank
Thanks.
you.